For the past 12 years, on the Shabbat closest to Veterans Day, we have been privileged through our synagogue's ongoing support of the Jewish Welfare Board, Jewish Chaplains Council, to welcome a member of their ranks. It is one way we affirm that partnership and our commitment to our men and women in uniform. Reaching back to the 1940s, when our women's auxiliary collected donations and held drives for war relief, and the USO operated a 24-hour canteen out of Wise Hall, just beneath us, Temple Emanu-El has taken great pride in supporting our service women and men and veterans of every faith. And through your generosity to our philanthropic fund, we remain devoted supporters of the Jewish Welfare Board, Jewish Chaplains Council. Today, the JWB serves the approximately 10,000 Jewish men and women in the United States Armed Forces and their families. Indeed, for more than 100 years, in times of peace and war, the JWB has been fulfilling its mission to provide services that meet the religious, educational, and spiritual needs of Jewish military personnel in an inclusive and pluralistic manner. And it is the primary endorser of Jewish chaplains for the military, including tonight's most honored guest, Chaplain Major Rabbi Gary J. Davidson. A graduate of Brandeis University in 1985, Chaplain Major Davidson went on to study at the University of Judaism and the Jewish Theological Seminary, from which he was ordained in 1996. He first served as a congregational rabbi in Long Beach, California, and then commissioned as an active duty chaplain in 2004. His duties have taken him from Schriever Air Force Base in Colorado to Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland, to 4 years in Germany, 2 in Italy, and 3 in South Korea. Currently, he is stationed at Hanscom Air Force Base in Bedford, Massachusetts. And while he'll share greater details of his journey of service, what he probably won't say is that along the way he earned the Air Force Commendation Medal, the Army Achievement Medal, and the Korean Peace Medal. Tonight, at this moment in our nation's history, for many one of anxiety and division, we pause to focus on the blessings this country provides us, our gratitude for which unites us. High among those is a military committed to protecting us at home and abroad, and it is in that spirit of profound thanks for his service that we welcome Chaplain Major Gary J. Davidson.
Shabbat Shalom. First, I have some thank yous before I begin my official remarks. I first want to thank Rabbi Larry Bazer, the director of the Jewish Welfare Board, for nominating me to be here this evening to speak with you in advance of Veterans Day. I also want to thank Rabbi Davidson, again, as you heard, we share the same name, for being such a mensch. Whenever we spoke by phone, and I had never met him before, he was so polite and respectful and kind, good-natured, and it was just a little while ago we met for our first time in person. And just looking at him, I can tell that you are blessed to have him as your rabbi. But as I've learned about this congregation, you have several other rabbis and cantors, and as I've heard tonight, we have several wonderful musicians and also singers. You sound fantastic, all of you. I'm sure you have, and you have, of course, a dedicated staff, teachers, and so many others here who do the upkeep of the synagogue, and even help keep it clean and keep it secure. So thank you so much to all of you for making this service so beautiful and inspiring. And also to each one of you who came out this evening for this service and to hear me speak, as well as those who are watching virtually, which also include members of my family and friends. As I've learned being in the military, you don't always have a whole lot of Jews around, and those in the service, we make up 1% or in some cases a little less, 10,000 spread across the entire armed services. So it wouldn't be unusual for me to lead a service with as few as 1 or 2 people. And the way I looked at it is every life is valuable. Every life has meaning and purpose. So if it's only one person who came to my service, whether it was here in the United States or in Iraq or Afghanistan or some other country, I was just thankful that they came. So thank you for being here. I should mention that I am not speaking on behalf of the Air Force. I'm speaking as Gary Davidson. And I'm going to share with you tonight, in the relatively short time I have, some of my experiences. Some of them sort of unusual, some a little comical, some serious, some sad, some happy. But I'm going to give you a snapshot in about the next 15 minutes or slightly less of what some of my experiences have been like in the military. But before I do that, I also want to mention there are several people here who have served in the military or have family who have served, whether it be here in the United States or Israel. If you have served or someone else you know close to you in the family has served, would you raise your hand for a moment? If you take a look around, these people all deserve a round of applause. And one last thing, I also want to mention, I heard carefully that Rabbi Davidson mentioned that we are supportive of people of all religions who serve, or no religion. And that's part of the reason I decided to join the military, because of the constitutional right we all have to practice a religion or not. And it occurred to me that as a rabbi, I have a duty to serve my community. If I don't do something to support my nation, my country, those who are willing to sacrifice their life, Jewish or not, who will? We need people to step forward and do the right thing. And if these people are willing to fight for our country, I'm willing to support them. I don't like war. I don't want to die. But I care about my fellow American. And I care about this wonderful country. When I first came in, I really knew very little about the Air Force. I had done an internship, enjoyed my experience, but I can tell you I was sort of a greenhorn, because when one of the chaplains, which is a generic title for those ministers, priests, rabbis, imams who serve, we all get the title chaplain to remind our service members we're here for you no matter what faith or no faith you are. Someone said to me, well, tell me about your ministry. And I had never been asked what's my ministry because I'm Jewish. What's ministry? And when they wanted me to give a prayer as an example to test what I'd be like as a chaplain in the military, off the cuff, I said, I don't really know how to do it, because I'm based more on the scripture and from Torah and giving a little devar, a little sermon. So I struggled. And even when I went to boot camp for my first time, I was in a t-shirt and just a regular pair of shorts. No, actually they were long pants, and I was with doctors and lawyers. We were all the professionals coming in, with our suitcases. There was a captain at the boot camp who said, well, would you like some help with your baggage? And I said, sure. We could really use the help. We don't know where to go, and we're new, and we've never been in the military really officially before. And the next thing I knew is she started to yell at me, saying, don't you see I'm a captain in the United States Air Force? I'm wearing a uniform. You shall refer to me as ma'am. You will do as I say. it was all new to me. This was boot camp. Welcome to the military. I'm sure behind it all, she was a very nice person, but she was teaching us a lesson. Life is different when you join the military. And one of the name tags on my uniform is my last name, Davidson, but also United States Air Force. Getting that uniform meant a lot to me, but seeing U.S. Air Force meant the most. I'm part of a team. It's no longer just about me. It's really about the other. I started to feel more comfortable as a military person, as a rabbi, as a chaplain. A few years into my service working at the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado, where I got a chance to work with some of the best and brightest military college students in the Air Force. And at some point I realized these people are working very hard in college. They're not partying and doing that. They're studying, they're training, marching. So I said, I have to do everything I can to support them, Jewish, non-Jewish. So I thought out of the box, and I said, all right, let me do fun things for them. So I parked a chair outside the main dining facility where they would all go in for meals. And I bought a megaphone where I would say, you are the best, I'm so proud of you, you're number one. I bought a foam finger number one that you see at sporting events and reminded them whenever I saw them around the academy, you're number one. I brought in a fan, an oscillating fan, the type that keeps you cool, and I said, I'm your biggest fan. Thank you for your service. I had a small golf trophy that I would say, you're champions. I commandeered a golf cart and filled it up with candy, so at midterms and finals, I'd drive around the campus giving out candy as they were heading to finals or midterms. And even on that megaphone, I recorded the Queen song, We Are the Champions, so when I saw them marching, I'd play the music for them, We Are the Champions. I grew to love those Air Force cadets. But let me move ahead because my time is short. When I was in Maryland, I had the opportunity to meet Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who visited our nation's capital, and our leadership decided to have me greet him as he descended from his airplane. That was a thrill, and he gave me a blessing. When I went to Germany, that at first was a very difficult assignment for me. But as a friend said to me, Gary, you have to do something positive. You have to. Knowing the history and knowing your reservations about going to Germany, make the experience positive. So I did. Here's just a couple of things that I was involved in that to me were very important, not as part of the military. This was as a civilian. You heard earlier that tomorrow and the day after is the anniversary of Kristallnacht, Night of the Broken Glass, when the Germans rampaged throughout the country in Austria and destroyed many synagogues. But as it turns out, not every synagogue in Germany was burnt down because their minister of propaganda, Goebbels, had given the order, only burn down the synagogues if they're not next to a German house or houses, because the leaders didn't want the German houses to burn down along with the synagogues. So some of the synagogues did not burn down on Kristallnacht, but instead were destroyed from inside. They were ransacked. And ironically, several of those buildings are still in existence. These former synagogues. And some of the German communities have spent money to refurbish them and renovate them to look sort of like what they did back before World War II. But now they've been turned into more museums and showpieces because there aren't really the Jews anymore to pray there. They've lost their Jewish spirit, they've lost their Jewish soul. So I got the idea, well, maybe I can bring back some of that Jewish spirit and Jewish soul that was taken during that period of Kristallnacht. I'm going to organize Jews and Christians and Germans and Americans and Russians to go to these synagogues, and we're going to bring a Torah, we're going to the synagogue, we're going to put up a mezuzah, I'm going to run a Jewish service, we're going to have a historian speak about that synagogue, we're going to have a local town official or government official speak, and then we're going to have kosher food and celebrate. We rededicated 4 synagogues that had been ransacked by the Nazis during that period of Kristallnacht and rededicated them, bringing back their Jewish soul, bringing back their Jewish spirit. One other thing that I want to mention about in Germany, and then I'm going to move on. I visited too many of the concentration camps, it feels like, death camps, deportation centers. I saw some of the worst. I can say it's scarring, and yet I felt it was important for me as a Jew to go. I've met many Holocaust survivors. I've met some Germans who fought for Hitler. And I said, despite it all, I'm going to go around, I'm going to teach, I'm going to educate, I'm going to do programming to help teach about the Jewish view of the Holocaust even now, and how do we deal with it. I'm going to move on. I'm going to talk briefly about being in Iraq. We had a small Jewish community in Iraq. I went up for some major holidays. While I was in the chapel preparing at my base in Iraq, we got a warning that a missile was coming our way. We were in the way of getting a rocket attacked. And it took me a few moments to let it sink in that at any moment I might lose my life. And then my training kicked in and I ran out as quick as I could out of the chapel where I was working, and there was a concrete shelter that I got into, and thankfully, whatever the projectile was, it went past us, but I was very grateful that we were not hurt. And I also want to mention at that particular base in Iraq, as we were preparing for the holiday of Passover, we had many, many cases of kosher for Passover meals provided for us for the Jewish service members. When I was in another country, I won't mention what it is, it was a solemn duty of mine to be available as bodies of our service members, various branches were flown in from Iraq, Afghanistan, and we would assist with a memorial service before the bodies would continue back to the United States. Usually we got those who were killed in the numbers of 1s or 2s, 3s or 4s, but one time I remember we had 12 coffins come in, 12 dead. It was announced on CNN News, other news channels, about the great loss in this one attack. And I remember I said to some of the people who were there with me, I said, I don't think I can do this service for these 12. It's too many. It's too many deaths of my brothers and sisters. That's how I look at the service members. And there was somebody from the Army who said, Chaplain, he said, you have to. This is why God put you here right now. You have a purpose. And I did it. As hard as it was to say goodbye to each of those many dead, I always felt it was the greatest honor to serve them after they made the ultimate sacrifice. It was perhaps the most meaningful time in the military. A couple final points. When I was in Afghanistan, I was at a base for the high holidays. We had to do tashlich, where you take breadcrumbs and you go to a moving stream and you throw the breadcrumbs representing your sins into the flowing water to carry away your sins. And at that particular base in Afghanistan, there was really only one area within walking distance with a running stream. The only problem is that it was surrounded by barbed wire because there was a minefield, an active minefield on the other side. So it was a barbed wire fence, minefield with bombs, and the water beyond that. And so a fellow Jew and I had our breadcrumbs, and she said to me, "That's the water. Try not to hit the landmines." So, I'm in New York. You've had some of the best pitchers in baseball, and the Yankees, the Mets, whatever team you root for. But I can tell you, that Tashlich, my aim was better than any of them. I balled it up. I saw where the landmine area was in the grass. I saw the water beyond, barbed wire, and I carefully tossed it, lobbed it so it wouldn't come down too hard if I was short, and I got them all in the water. So, New York Yankees, if you need, well, no, I'm from Boston, so forget it. And I think I'll share just one final story, because I need to wrap up. What good, I talked about the role of having chaplains of all faiths, including rabbis, to support our men and women who are so brave, who are willing to sacrifice their lives for the country. So when I was at a small base in Afghanistan, I was doing visitation, which is one of the many things I as a chaplain do. I do counseling, I do meetings of worship, programming, help with religious accommodation issues, but I do visitation around the base. And I went to this one corner of this small base in Afghanistan during the Afghanistan war. And it was a guard tower where we had some military members with very big guns to prevent any of the bad guys from getting onto the base to try and hurt us. And it turns out that guard was Jewish. One of the guards was Jewish. And we were talking, and he told me the story. I'll summarize. He said that, he had gone to Hebrew school as a kid, but he was a bad kid. He said, I was a bad Jewish kid. He said, because I was always causing trouble. I didn't want to go to Hebrew school. I was always getting in trouble with the teacher. I was always getting in trouble with the principal. And he said, I was always getting in trouble. And eventually, he said, I got kicked out of Hebrew school. And he said, I've never gone back. Never went back. I lost all connection to my Judaism. And I said to him, well, look, I'm here for a holiday service. We're going to have a dinner tonight. I'm a good person. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to support you and embrace you. You can come to the dinner tonight, be with other Jewish members, some non-Jewish members who will join us. No pressure, you don't have to come, but I'd love it if you would join us. I left him at the guard tower thinking he'll never join, he'll never come. But that night he showed up. And he came to the dinner. And during the dinner, I told him and the others who were there that at previous bases I had been in Afghanistan, I actually found Jewish service members who never had a bar mitzvah and wanted one, so I trained them in short order to have one. And would you know, after that dinner and after my talk, and everybody left, the one person who stayed was that one young service member, and he said, Rabbi, I heard what you said, that you had helped bar mitzvah some of the other people who were Jewish here in Afghanistan at their military bases, and I never had a bar mitzvah because I was kicked out of Hebrew school. And I always wanted one. Would you be willing to teach me and train me so I can have a bar mitzvah here at my base in Afghanistan? And I said, yes, of course. So we sat down and I trained him the blessings, and I taught him some of the basic concepts of Judaism, and we talked about his willingness to do some sort of community good. And he got up on a Friday evening when we had our service, and he chanted from the Torah, and he chanted the blessings, and he talked about the good deed that he was going to do for the community, and he talked about how much it meant for him to have this service at this small base in Afghanistan, and I gave him the gift of a prayer shawl and a chumash, a book form of the Torah, and he broke down crying on the bima, saying he felt as if a large burden had been removed from his shoulders, and he could let go of the hurt and the anger that he had from being disassociated from his Judaism. It took a rabbi who had a heart, or a person who had a heart, to care for another, that changed his feelings about his faith. As he cried on the bima and thanked all who came for helping him re-embrace his Judaism, he had to stop and go back to his seat because it was too overwhelming emotionally for him, all the hurt and the pain, finally to have it go. This is part of what we in the chaplaincy, what we in the military do. We serve others. We care about others. We care about our country. We're willing to sacrifice our lives for our nation. My final words to you. This week's Torah portion says, from God to Abraham, go from your land, from your birthplace, and from your father's house to the land I will show you, and you will be a source of blessing. For those of us in the military, we don't know where we're going, just like Abraham didn't. We leave our surroundings, we leave our homes, we leave our families. We don't know what the life is going to be like, how long it's going to be. But we're proud to serve. We're proud to serve. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Major Davidson. Gary, we are so grateful for your presence tonight, for your life of dedication, for the inspiration that you gave us, and for your very apparent menschlichkeit and sweetness. We're so grateful to you.